Welcome to Dad Esquire, the podcast for lawyer dads who are navigating the courtroom, the office, and the chaos of fatherhood. I'm your host, Matthew Korn, a practicing attorney and dad of four. At Dad Esquire, we tackle the unique challenges of balancing life as a lawyer dad. From work-life hacks to parenting wins and fails, I'm here to share stories, tips, and tools to help you thrive in both worlds. So grab your coffee, take a break from the billable hours, and let's spend some time focusing on being the best lawyer and dad you can be. It's time to dive in. This is Dad Esquire. Welcome to Dad Ask, Lawyer Dad of the Month, and I'm really excited today to be joined by Trever Neuroth. He is in-house counsel at Disney. I'll let him tell you more about that, but congratulations, Trever, for being selected as Lawyer Dad of the Month. I really appreciate you joining me, and I'm excited to hear more about just how you balance being a lawyer and a dad. So let's just jump in and just, if you could just introduce yourself, give me a little bit of your legal career, your family, whichever one you want to start with first.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me, Matt. But let's start with what's most important first, family. I'm married to my wife, Sarah, who's literally my better half. We've been married for a little over 13 years now. Got married between 2L and 3L year at law school, so that was interesting and fun, planning a wedding, and taking finals.
Is she
And
a
then we've
lawyer
got
too?
no, 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 no,
Okay.
no. But she's surrounded by them. Her father's a lawyer. Her older brother's a lawyer. Her sister-in-law's a lawyer. So she was smart. She was an English major, and she's just one of the smartest people I know. But we are, lucky to have two sons, Max, who's 10, going into sixth grade, middle school, and Sam, who's 6, is starting first grade in a couple of weeks.
Well, before we jump into career, just I've got one who's 10. He's going into fifth grade. He's one of the older kids in his class. But what's it like? Like, what are your feelings right now? We start school literally on August 4th in South Carolina, which is crazy early. But um, how do you feel about having a middle schooler in the house?
It, I feel like I'm too young to have a middle schooler, don't let the gray and the beard trick you. But I mean, it's different because we recently moved to California. We were in Virginia before, and sixth grade was still in elementary school. So like it's
Mm.
been a shock for all of us because Max, poor kid, like he wasn't expecting this. We moved in the middle of the school year last year. So we're really trying to work with him and prep him, but it's middle school's scary, You've got the changing in gym class, you've got lockers, you've got changing schedules. So it's a lot to kind of get used to. We've got registration today for middle school. So after this, I'm heading back home and taking him there. But then this week he's got like a half day where they kind of prep him and he gets to kind of do a mock, day as a sixth grader. So I think he's going to be all right.
Good. Yeah, that's it's a fun time. I feel like that's a big transition though. So
It is.
I've got one more year to prepare to prepare myself for that. But so yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I know I already gave away. I spoiled the I didn't do the spoiler alert. I should have, but you work for Disney. You got a Mickey shirt, how much I love.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, that was the spoiler there. So even if you hadn't said anything, hopefully someone would have figured out. And I got Jiminy Cricket in the background.
that's
So
right. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So tell me about your from law school to where you are now.
yeah, so I graduated law school in 2013, went to the University of Missouri. My first 2 years of practice, I was in Anchorage, Alaska. So I'm barred in Alaska. I was a litigation associate up there in a kind of a fairly large regional firm. Um, my wife and I always knew that Alaska was kind of like a, hey, let's do this while we're young type thing. A couple years in, the job market in there was getting kind of tight, and the legal work was drying up a little bit. My wife got a job offer in DC. I was like, okay, this could be a bit of a lifeline. So we jumped and did that. I told her, yeah, I'll find something in DC. I've got a law degree. The government's there, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up getting a job at the U.S. Postal Service as kind of a labor and employment counsel there, and that's when I started doing health and safety work. Postal Service, not to nerd out too much, but the Postal Service is really interesting in that it's the only government agency that OSHA can issue dollar penalties to. And we were often issued penalties. So it was busy work there. I started doing that kind of in a field office with the Postal Service and really fell in love with it. And after about a year, I was asked to go up to headquarters to be OSHA counsel. Uh, did that for a while and then jumped back to private practice at Jackson Lewis, which is a great firm, but I quickly realized firm life, no offense, Matt, was not for me, not my thing. Um, and got lucky in that I had a client that was looking in-house. It was a utility company called Exelon. So I jumped to that after being at Jackson Lewis for about a year. Um, Jumped to Exelon in April of 2020. So as you can imagine, as a health and safety attorney at a utility company, that was a very, very busy time because we had to
Busy
keep the
time.
lights on. So we couldn't just shut down and fold up. We had a lot to figure out. Did that for about 4 years, and last summer a Disney recruiter called, and I typically don't respond to recruiters, but when one from Disney calls and you've got two young kids, you pick up. And was lucky enough to get this job, and I started remotely from DC in September of last year, and then we moved out to California last January.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny because I actually started my career in health and safety too, and I was doing the other health and safety though, MSHA, with the
Mhm.
U.S. Department of Labor, and I was in the Arlington area and traveling to Southern West Virginia to enforce health and safety standards at coal mines. So it's really interesting work though. What aspects of health and safety do you enjoy?
I grew up my in a very kind of blue collar background. My mom was a letter carrier for the Postal Service. My dad was a construction foreman. I worked in the summers in Alaska doing construction work. So as soon as I started doing it at the Postal Service, it was a connection. So it's one of those things where if you connect to it and you're good at it, you kind of continue to like it, I think is the big thing. And then like the purpose behind it is really important. It's the only job I can think of where legally you can be on the different side of the V from the federal government or California state government and still have kind of the same perspective and want the same outcomes, right? So like I litigate citations all the time, go into settlement and say we actually do want the same thing here, and that's to keep people safe. And you can argue, not argue, but you can come at it from that stance where the regulator and you are on the same side. You have the same goal. You might just have different ways of thinking about getting there, right? And I can't think of another litigation type job where you get to do that or get to say that. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, So in that kind of in that vein, what thing surprised you most about becoming a lawyer? And then same question about being a dad. What thing has surprised you most? What were you not prepared for?
yeah,
Something that was surprising to you.
I think with becoming a lawyer, and this might have started in law school a little bit too, is that the the best lawyers still are kind of figuring it out too. Like, you go to law school and you start, you think, yeah, that person's a partner. They've got it all. Like you kind of look up to people, but then like you start to work with other attorneys and you kind of realize, wait, we're all just kind of just figuring this out, and every case is a little different, and all the nuance is new, and it no one has it all figured out, which is
Mm.
kind of reassuring, especially as you first start out. So that I think that was a real big surprise, especially coming from the background that I did, where I didn't have any family that had ever gone to law school. I was the first generation that got an advanced degree in my family. So that was kind of like glass shattering a bit, like, oh, like I can do this. I'm not the only one who doesn't know what they're doing, right? Even the partner is kind of confused on this. So I think that was kind of the major thing, especially as an associate, like a new attorney, that kind of surprised me.
That's such a
Um,
good insight because like I mean and we call it the practice of law. And I used to think, why haven't we just perfect? I've been doing this 15 years now. Why am I still practicing? Um, but there's some truth to that, and I now work with associates at our firm and try to do some mentoring. And I always say like I want to hear your idea, like just because I'm the partner. I think as an associate mentality is the partner knows all,
mhm.
but it's a really good insight to say like, hey, the partner might have one way of thinking about it, but you have a completely different way of thinking about it as an associate. So.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then as a parent, I think early on, one thing that kind of surprised me is for dads how low the bar is. Not like what we set on ourselves personally, because especially in this group, I think we all try to be very involved and active fathers, but doing that and kind of the reaction you get out in the real world by just kind of doing the basic things was surprising. Like the thing I think about most is when we had our first boy, Max. We were in Anchorage, Alaska, and I would take him when my wife was working. I would take him to the Dome, which was this big blow up indoor track, and I would just walk around. And you would get so many looks and like oh, you're just such a good dad. Like all I'm doing is taking him for a walk so he'll take a nap. Like this is the only time I can get him to nap. Like that bar is just so low. And I think that's surprising. And I think that's why groups like this are really important to kind of get people to think like, no, as dads, we need to be doing more and we shouldn't get pats on the backs for kind of doing the basics too.
Yeah. I've had the same experience like going into a supermarket with my four kids. And like, first of all, I love grocery shopping. My wife abhors grocery shopping. So that's something I really enjoy doing when I have time. And for me as a dad, it's easier for me to manage the kids for some reason when we're out doing stuff than when we're just sitting at home and they're just running
Mhm.
everywhere. So I don't mind doing it, but like you get people that are like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe you have these four kids at this grocery store. My wife brings four kids and they just look at her like, oh, that's just a mom with their four
Yeah,
kids at the grocery store. So
right.
you're absolutely right. And as you point out, that's what I love about this community that we're building. We've got over 200 guys now already within the first few months, just saying, I want to be a good lawyer, but I also want to be a really, really good dad.
Mhm.
And what does that look like and how do I do that? And so I love that answer. I was thinking also I had the similar thought of like this whole idea like partners have it all figured out at law firms. Like I think often when I was younger, I would look at parents and be like, oh, those parents have it figured out. But I'm still practicing being a parent. I don't know about you, but every day is a
It-
new day and
yeah,
something to learn.
it's a new day, and then like having more than one, they're two very different people too. So like what worked for the first, like I always kind of, we kind of joke with our oldest, like you are our experiment. So Sam, our youngest, has it better because we know what not to do. But what we did with him doesn't work with Sam either. So it's always just like a game of figuring it out and balance and everything. So
That's also such a good insight for dad. I think a lot of dads will be able to relate to that because we have three boys, 10, 7, and 5, and they're biological and we adopted our daughter. But when we had our second boy, I was like, I can't believe he's like the polar opposite of our first
yep,
boy. And then we had our third boy, and I was like, I didn't know there was a third personality type, but whatever it is, he has it.
yep.
And so, but it's like how are you? I'm interested. Like you're older and you're younger. Like which one's the rule follower? Which one's
Our our older is the rule follower. He has a very strong sense of justice. And our younger one is just complete chaos. We call him Slytherin all the time. He's a straight Slytherin. But the thing is like he's also super cute. Like he's got two dimples and he knows he can get away with stuff because of that. So it's tough, but it's fun.
I 100% relate. Have the
Yeah.
same dynamic in my first two, and it's
Yep.
that's really funny. My second one's gonna be my lawyer, though. He is everything I say to him. He has a response ready to go.
Yep.
He's there. Cool. Well, what's it like? I know we talked about like why do you like OSHA work, but what's it like working on OSHA compliance safety issues in-house in an in-house environment, especially in like a dynamic, high visibility environment like Disney? Like I mean, a Disney is it's the most magical place on earth. It's everybody knows Disney. Like, what's it like being in-house in an environment like that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll kind of divide that into two questions if you don't mind. Like first,
Yeah.
the in-house part of it is what I enjoy the most, right? So I think what I didn't like about firm life was, especially in health and safety, it's everything is an emergency and you're helping your client through that emergency. And then because of the billable hour, you're done after, right?
Yeah.
So you're not able to kind of like connect with them and make sure things are going well after the incident or before the incident. So that's what I love about in-house work is I've got I mean, I've got one client, but the Walt Disney Company is so huge that it's really a lot of different clients and personalities and cultures. But I kind of get to see them through a lot of different things and how they progress in their safety culture. So I love that. Um, when it comes to the high visibility part of it, in health and safety, I don't think it makes much of a difference if I were at a, 15 person company or, a 500,000 person company because your goal is to keep people safe. So I should have a spotlight on me the whole time, no matter
Yeah.
what, right? So practically, that's the way I try to think about it. Of course, when something happens, the Walt Disney Company is so huge that, reputational risk is a big thing that we consider here. Um, but I try to really kind of divorce myself from that and say we're going to do what's right now and what's right for our employees and kind of take it that way.
Yeah. It's I was in house for about a year and a half, so not a long tenure, but I think that the compliance aspect of feeling like you're part of the team, trying to develop that culture and figure out like how can we keep people safe? How do we comply with the law? But also like we want to, if our goal is bare minimum compliance with the law, that's probably not the right culture for a company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. So, how do you manage the mental weight of your work, and then when you get home, how do you leave it behind, or do you struggle with, still thinking about what's going on at work while you're at home with your kids and your wife?
Yeah, I definitely probably don't leave it behind, mostly because, it's almost a 24-hour operation. So I have to be on, you know, most of the time. That said, I think what's helped me a lot is bringing my family into my work. Like we talk about our days, we kind of vent to each other sometimes, and I struggled with it early because sometimes like you feel like, okay, wait, these are my kids. I don't need to be putting this stress on them. So most of the venting is with my wife, but we do like at the dinner table, we do highs and lows. So we talk about our days. We say what the high of the day was, what the low of the day is, and that really kind of helps. I don't know, bring your family into it too, so that they understand what you're going through. And hey, dad might have a call he has to hop on tonight because, X, Y, and Z is happening. So instead of just like, hey, I can't spend time with you right now, and giving them that kind of why. And I think it also builds a lot of like pride in your kids. Like my kids are very like in tune to what I do and very like kind of proud of it. Like my I've got a couple like safety mugs and one says total safety nerd, I think, or something like that. And my younger kid was like, I want a mug like that. And he was like, you don't drink coffee, so I'm not, you can sip some milk out of this one. But we found a shirt that had the same thing on it. Bought it for him. He's wearing it like every other day now. So
Yeah.
like being able to kind of talk to them and make them understand what I do and why it's important, I think has been really helpful because sometimes it's hard to leave it at the door just because it's almost 24/7 where I have to be ready to pick up the phone. So
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Looking back on my days as a health and safety lawyer, now I do employment and class collective actions and wage and hour, and I like to say it's money, it's not life or death. But in health and safety, sometimes it is life or death, and
yeah.
so you're definitely on call. But I love that teaching your kids more about what you do. I know I think you responded to it too, but in our dad chat in the dad community recently, I said something like, what are your, when you ask your kids, what do I do for work? What do they say? And the closest was my oldest for me. And he said, you terminate people, you help employers terminate people, but you do it as kindly as possible. And I was like, well, that's pretty good. It's pretty
Yeah.
spot on. But
Yeah.
it sounds like your kids have a pretty good idea of what you're doing, which is cool. I was going to ask, one of my questions was just like, do your kids just think you hang out with Mickey all day, or do they really
Yeah.
understand more of what you do?
Sometimes they'll give me a hard time, right? Because we're here in Burbank where the studio is, but every now and then I'll need to go to Anaheim to go to the parks. You
Yeah.
you got to get your eyes on things sometimes. And so it's mostly my wife will give me a hard time. She'll like screenshot, we share our location. She'll screenshot like, what are you doing at the Matterhorn? I thought you had meetings. So it's mostly my wife who's giving me a hard time. But yeah, it's, hazards of the job. So
Well, and then particularly as you say, like it's 24/7, there's always the possibility of getting called. Have you found any systems or boundaries that work for you to help you stay grounded, in both roles, like whether you're at work and something's going on at home or vice versa?
yeah, I mean, there's routines that we have at home where I say, okay, yeah, the work phone is just not here. If and I've let internal clients know that like, hey, Fridays are movie nights
Yeah.
from 6 to 8:30. I'm unavailable. If it's an actual emergency, call my personal cell, but work phone stays in the other room, right? So like there are times where I say, okay, hard boundary here. This is family time, and that's a lot of times Friday nights we do movie night, and that's kind of our tradition. We've done it with our 10-year-old since he was like 3. They don't get a lot of screen time, but Fridays are our movie times. And I think the other thing you talk about staying grounded is like I try like Headspace app is great. I try to do some meditations here and there just to like if I can tell like hey I'm getting stressed about something, I'm gonna do a quick 2-minute meditation and kind of just like reset. And I do that at work and home. So
Yeah, that is a really good app.
yeah.
Um, what's what's your favorite movie, or what's your kid's favorite movie more so?
Well,
Maybe both. What's your favorite and your kid's favorite? And then what's your last three-part question? What's the last movie you guys watched on a Friday night?
okay, good questions. My kids all suffer from the worst like recency bias. So if you ask them what their favorite movie right now would be, it would be Fantastic Four because we just watched it. And, got to help the stock price. We went and watched it opening weekend, so they would say that I think. The last movie we watched for movie night was Iron Man 2, I think. They've gotten into Marvel movies here recently, so they're kind of on a kick where they're trying to get through the Infinity Saga. So I think Iron Man 2 was the last one we watched. My favorite movie is Tombstone. Um, and there's a long story behind why that's my favorite movie, and it's one of my wife's favorite movies, but yeah, that's my favorite movie.
Awesome. My 10-year-old just watched all the Star Wars movies
Nice.
on his Disney Plus app. And there's a plug for it. And he truthfully, I'm not. I've seen the Star Wars movies. I wouldn't call myself a Trekkie or a Star Wars nut or anything. But he just watched them all and he's super into it right now. So part of me is like, maybe I should try to be more into it for him. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's his right now.
Yeah, it's not really my thing either, but I will say at the parks, the Galaxy's Edge is one of the coolest parts of the parks, even if you're not into Star Wars. So like for me personally, I love when we go and do the rides there. So
Yeah, no, I think next time we go down to we'll be doing Orlando. It's a lot closer to South Carolina, but next time we go down, he'll have a different appreciation
yeah,
for it than
for
he
sure.
did. Um, well, cool. So, what I really like asking people this question because I think this is one of the cool parts of the community is like we have these desires to be great lawyers, great parents, but I think there's often a lot of crossover there. So like what about being a dad has taught you, what have you learned by being a dad that's helped you be a better lawyer or vice versa?
Yeah, I think like the thing that my wife and my kids have really helped instill in me is like sometimes you need to just listen first before you problem solve. Which as attorneys, that's tough too. Like you got a problem, the goal is to solve it, right? And solve it,
Mhm.
especially when you're not in house, when you're billing hours, you want to solve it quickly too, so you're efficient. But like when it comes to just like emotionally connecting with someone, especially like my kids, like when they get hurt, I used to like the first thing I would ask is what happened, right? And like I started to realize, my wife really pointed this out to me is like, hey, you're trying to figure out what happened so you can fix it, but you're not focused on the fact that they're hurt, right? So I think that's really helpful when you're an attorney too, right? Because um, you, all day, every day, people are coming to you with problems. But if you don't kind of dig down to the root of like, what are we trying to get at? What are your motivations here? You don't give as good advice. So I think that's something that's really kind of helped me become a better attorney is like, my wife would point that out to me even before we had kids sometimes too. But after having kids, like that example of like a kid getting hurt, like what's most important here? Figuring out what happened or making sure they're okay. And kind of slowing down and having that patience to kind of check on people, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, my knee jerk reaction, and I'm trying to change this, is when my kid, falls and skins their knee or something. My knee jerk is picking them up and be like, "You're okay, you're fine, dust it off, you're okay." Which is a way of like trying to solve. It's trying to move past that emotion of
Mhm.
they're screaming and crying. But
Yep.
I've lately been trying to take a step back and being like, what hurts, and like my wife is a much more empathetic person than I am. So she's teaching me things like to say like, hey, I've had that happen too, and it's really tough. That just to be able to show them that it's okay to have emotion about these things. So really, really good answer. What advice do you have, if any? You've been a lot of the guys in our community are, I would say, new dads.
Mhm.
I love guys in our community that join. We've got some guys that have teenagers and college age children, and I want more of that because that's really what I'm looking for is like how to manage a teenager. And I'm sure you probably are in the same boat of that. But what advice do you have as a parent of a 10 and 6-year-old for somebody that's coming up along behind you?
I, I mean, I think it's it's tough to give advice as a parent because everyone parents different. I say what works for me is you finding time to connect one-on-one with your kids, I think is really, really important. My wife and I try to do that where we'll take weekends where like, okay, I'm going to take Max and go do this. You can go take Sam and go do something. And like having that one-on-one time is really, really important. Kind of building that individual relationship. Because I am a dad to Max and Sam, but I need to have my relationship with Max and my separate relationship to Sam.
Hmm.
So for anyone with, multiple kids, I think that's really important. And like the old cliches, like they grow up really, really fast, right? And they become different people as they grow up. So it's really important to reestablish that relationship on a frequent basis because they are changing. Like my 10-year-old is a different person than when he was 5, and my 6-year-old is a different person than when he was 3. And kind of looking at it that way is like I need to reestablish that relationship. Like he's into different things now. He's starting to get more into sports first, Pokemon cards, and like you got to follow that development and kind of reestablish that relationship like as you go, I think.
Yeah, that's really good. And be like curious too. Like I too often like my kids come home from school. I'm like, how was school? It was good. What'd you do? Stuff. That's literally that's my response sometimes. I feel like I have to bust out my lawyer deposition skills and start asking like more detailed questions to them. And I don't know if you've experienced that too, but that is super important.
We had that just last night, Matt. I was talking to my kids. We have like a finished garage, and I finished work and went out and kind of started talking to them. And Sam was like, "Yeah, we got back from camp. We got to swim. Max got to go on the big slide, but I didn't because I wasn't tall enough." The story stopped there for mom, but then for me, he was like, "But there was a smaller slide, and I was going down head first and all this stuff." And then I went and talked to my wife. I was like, "Did Sam tell you about the smaller slide?" No, he was just like, told me about what he was mad about. So
Yeah.
like we'll get different stories about how their days went, and we'll have to like reconnect to make sure that we know everything. So yeah, they definitely do that.
So what is one of your proudest moments as a dad?
I think this move from we've done a lot of adventuring since being parents, moving from Alaska to the DC area and then DC to here. But the move from DC here was a big one, right? Because
Mhm.
I've got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, so like making the decision to move was tough. And then moving in the middle of the school year was really hard too, especially for my 10-year-old who was, kind of more connected to the community, had more friends and things like that. So kind of breaking those bonds and coming out here, but seeing how well they have adapted is I'm really, really proud of them when it comes to that. They've created community here. They've made new friends fast. They've found ways to still stay in contact with their friends in Virginia. And just seeing how resilient they are is um, like I try not to, yeah, it's a credit to them, but also like my wife and I talk a lot about, okay, we must be doing something right because they were able to do this really hard thing and be okay. I don't know what it is that we're doing right, but it has to be something right. So I think that's something that we're really proud of.
Yeah, and that's gotta be hard for you and your wife too. You're picking up, moving, and whenever we've been in South Carolina now almost 14 years, and
Mhm.
over the time period, at some points we've said, "Are we going to stay here?" But it is, and even just recently moving, we moved 8 miles down the road. We weren't moving to another part of Columbia because we got doctors and church
Mhm.
and friends, and so it's hard to uproot
It
um,
is. It
for
is.
you guys
Yeah.
and for the kids.
Yep. But we did it as a family and we found good community here, so no complaints.
That's awesome. Have your kids? I know I asked earlier what about being a dad surprised you, but have your kids taught you any lessons that we haven't already talked about that have surprised you?
I'm gonna, open yeah, break the fourth wall and let the listeners know that you sent me the questions beforehand, so I kind of have some
That's
time to think
fine.
about this. I was thinking about this question, and just the other night, Sam was in the shower, and he's 6, so sometimes he needs help getting conditioner out and stuff like that. So I'm out there in like Crocs and socks and helping him out, and my Crocs were getting all wet, and he's like, "Oh no, Dad, you got socks on. Your socks are on." That's not a big deal. He's like, "Oh, it is a big deal. You're important too." So like, I,
Wow.
for a 6-year-old, I was like, "Thanks, buddy," but it's really okay. But like that kind of like empathy really surprised me for his age. And and again, he's my Slytherin kid who like typically is not that way. So like I think that was a really big surprise to me. Like, okay, again, another moment of I don't know what I'm doing right, but it has to be there has to be something there, right? So I think that was a really big surprise that I scrolled away knowing this question was coming. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, no, and I did give you most of the questions. I have some questions now we're going to go through that I didn't give you in advance,
all
so it's
right.
going to be more impromptu. Um, so let's go through a couple of those. So if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be doing? You
Safety
can't say,
professional.
oh yeah,
I can't say that.
I,
Okay.
I was gonna say you can't say certified safety
Okay.
professional.
Okay. I got it then. Well, I started out undergrad as an education major. I thought I was going to go back and teach history at my high school and coach basketball. So I probably would have just stayed on that track.
Okay. All right, that's fair. And I was like, I assume he's gonna say certified safety professional because when you're
Yep.
in that world, in the safety world, the thing you said earlier about like you're coming at the issue, everybody you get into that mindset of like the main goal is, employees are our most valuable resource. We need to keep them safe. That's
Yep.
you need to be able to go home to their families and their kids. So all right, your kids are watching a lot of Marvel stuff. What is a superpower? If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Mm, that's a hard one. I think I'm scared of heights, so I probably wouldn't fly. Um, Probably just like I don't know, super strength, I guess, as I'm getting older, kids are getting heavier. It's harder to carry them and yeah, I would say super strength. Go with that.
Yeah, when my 7-year-old falls asleep on the couch and I've got to carry him up the stairs now, I'm like, ooh. And
Yeah.
we've got bunk beds for him and his 5-year-old brother, and he's on the top bunk. So usually by then I'm waking him up like, dude, you just need to walk up
You
the
got to
stairs.
climb the ladder. Yep. You're climbing the ladder. I'm not power cleaning you up there. Yep.
Um, dream vacation. Now, again, preface with it cannot be Disney.
Yeah, okay.
Dream vacation other than Disney, because I know that's where you would go with no budget in mind. Where would you go? With let's do two-part with just your wife and then with the kids.
Okay. So just my wife, we would probably go to Paris. Paris is so when I when I proposed to my wife, I proposed Terminal 5, Heathrow Airport, in the international section right in front of the Costa Coffee, because she had done study abroad there, and I flew over to meet her, and we were going to do some backpacking, and we were going to go to London and Paris and Munich. And I couldn't wait, proposed to her right there. And then we got to Paris, and then I didn't know the Eiffel Tower like sparkled that night. I knew it lit up, but on the
Yeah.
hour, every hour, it like sparkles. And I'm just like, geez, I couldn't wait for this. So I think we would go to Paris. The food's great there. And we haven't been back since we were in undergrad. Um, I think my kids, I would probably take them on that same backpacking trip that we went. We would go to London, Munich, and Paris, and kind of like try to do that from the like perspective of trying to find fun stuff for kids to do there, which I think those cities would be easy to do. So
That's awesome. And yeah, and thank you for sharing your proposal story. Did you get down on one knee in the airport right in the
I did. I
intersection?
did.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Ring was burning a hole in my pocket. So
Good for you. That's my wife's favorite. Whenever she meets a couple, like that's one of her first. She has a journalism background, and that's literally one of her first questions for any couple she meets is
that's a
how did you propose?
great question. Great
Yeah.
question.
All right, last one. What's your walk-up song? If you had a walk-up song, you're going into court, you're going to meet with OSHA, what would it be?
Um, so when I was an undergrad, I actually did some MMA and have thought about this and had a walk-up song. So it was AC/DC's Thunderstruck. So I
Wow.
probably just stick with that. It's got a great like intro to it. So yeah.
I don't know if they have do they have F3? Did you out there in California, do you know what F3 is?
Mm-mm.
It's a group of guys that meet at like 5 a.m. out and do like, you know, community-led workouts outside. It's all body weight or whatever
Mm-hmm.
you can find to carry or throw. But one time the guy was leading and he did burpees. There's probably another. I haven't done F3 for a little while. There was names for all the different movements, but um, he did burpees to Thunderstruck, and every time they said thunder, you had to do a burpee. And that is a so
That's a
try
lot of
that if you're
burpees.
trying to work out. Try that sometime. It was rough.
I don't think I could do that anymore. Yeah.
You just triggered a little PTSD from Thunderstruck, but I love it. I love that. That's a great
Oh,
song
yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
And MMA. How do we not just briefly? I want to hear the MMA story. How did you get into that?
Yeah, young and stupid. Like I grew up, my stepdad was a karate teacher, so like I did that growing up, and I don't I was 19 and weighed, a buck 45. I'm like, I can do this, and did it. So one fight, that was it. So
Awesome. Did you win?
no,
So your
no,
record's
yeah,
own.
yeah. Went all 3 rounds, but I lost. So
Well,
he was a hometown. He was a homer. Like I think the judges were in his pocket. So.
I love it. Well, Trevor, thanks so much for doing this. It's been really great getting to know you better. In the community, we have 2 times a month Zoom meetings that I know you've taken part in some of those, and this is my favorite part of the community is just getting to meet. If we didn't have dad ask, you and I probably never would have met. And so getting to meet other lawyer dads, hear their stories, always inspiring to me. And I think a lot of what you said is going to resonate with a lot of dads, lawyer dads out there, and just dads in general. So. Thank you so much. And if people listening want to join the community, it's dadesq.mn.co. So come into the community, Lawyer Dads, and meet Trevor and others in our community that have great stories. But thanks so much, Trevor.
Happy to do it,
Keep
man.
up the great work.
You too, man. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to Dad Esquire. If you found value in today's episode, leave a review and share it with other lawyer dads who could use a little extra support. For more tips, stories, and community, subscribe to our podcast and visit www.dadesq.com. If you're a lawyer dad who wants to join the community, submit your request to join today at www.dadesq.mn.co. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and on Instagram at dad_esquire for even more updates and, of course, some lawyer dad jokes. Until next time, keep crushing it at work and home. You've got this, lawyer dad.